A mutual friend pulled me aside, hesitant. I think they want you to find out. Confused, I checked their laptop. An open email draft read. I can't do this anymore, but I need them to end it first. That night, I handed them a box with all their things. No need to wait. It's over. Their shocked expression told me everything. I beat them to it. I'll never forget the night everything changed. It was one of those moments where everything felt normal, but something in your gut tells you it's not. I had been with Natalie for over 5 years at that point. We'd done the whole thing, met in a bar, dated, moved in together. You know the drill. The chemistry was there, the laughter, the late-night talks. It seemed perfect. But like all good things, it started to fall apart slowly, too slowly to notice at first. I should have caught on to the signs earlier. The way she'd pull her phone away when I walked into a room, how she always started texting right after I'd come back from the kitchen. The fact that she started working late every week, even when there wasn't really any reason to. But I told myself I was just being paranoid. People get busy, right? Everything hit me in one go when Mike, our mutual friend, pulled me aside at a gathering we were both at. We were in Lincoln Park, at some friend of a friend's house. Nothing special, just drinks and catching up. Mike was acting strange, fidgeting with his drink, like he was trying to hold something back. He looked at me, then looked around, then finally said it. I think they want you to find out. It was like I was hit by a train. My blood turned cold. I asked him to repeat himself, but he was hesitant. He just muttered something about how it's obvious, and that I shouldn't ignore it. But the way he said it, he wasn't talking about anything specific, but his face said everything. I tried to shake it off, but that night, I couldn't sleep. All I could think about was what Mike had said. The words just echoed in my head. They want you to find out. What was I supposed to find out? About what? So, naturally, I became obsessed. I started paying attention more closely to Natalie's behavior. Her excuses for staying late at work got thinner. There were times I'd come home, and she'd be on the phone, but she'd hang up quickly when I walked in, her face flushed. I brushed it off, tried to convince myself I was just being paranoid, but deep down, I knew something wasn't right. Then it happened. I was on the couch one evening when I saw her laptop was left open. It was a rare thing, honestly. Normally, she was super protective of her phone and laptop, always keeping them close. But this time, there it was, sitting on the coffee table, the screen wide open. Her email was up. I don't even know what made me check. Maybe I was already on edge, maybe I already knew, but I clicked on it. There, staring back at me, was a draft of an email. One line. That was it. I can't do this anymore, but I need them to end it first. My heart stopped. I closed the laptop quickly, my hands shaking. I don't even think I breathed for a full minute. That was it. I didn't need more proof. I didn't need to know who them was. I already knew. I had been living in this lie for so long, believing everything was fine when it wasn't. I wasn't stupid. The way things had been going, the constant distance, the lack of communication, it all added up in that one moment. I don't know why I didn't confront her right then. Maybe I wasn't ready to hear what she had to say. Maybe I didn't want to feel the weight of her excuses. But I knew something had to be done. The next few days were a blur. I didn't let on that I knew. I didn't want to give her the chance to spin her story first. I wanted to be the one to end it. I thought I could play it cool, pretend like nothing was wrong. But deep down I knew. I knew I had to make the first move. So, I started to plan. I decided to do something simple, gather her things. Not in an angry, dramatic way, but enough to make it clear that I was done. I started collecting all her stuff, clothes, books, mugs, everything that she had left around the apartment. I took my time, making sure I packed it all neatly, but I didn't rush. I could have waited for her to come home and say it to her face. I could have yelled, asked her to explain, but I wanted her to feel the weight of it. I wanted to make it clear that I had made my decision. No more waiting, no more pretending. The day I decided to do it, she was late, again. I wasn't surprised. It was becoming a routine, the late nights, the avoidance. But when she finally came through the door, there it was, a box on the dining table, all of her things inside. She stopped in her tracks when she saw it. Her face went pale. She must have realized what was happening, but she didn't say anything right away. "What's this?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. I looked her straight in the eye, and I felt a calm I hadn't felt in months. "No need to wait. It's over." She froze. Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. The shock on her face told me everything I needed to know. She wasn't ready. She hadn't expected this. She thought I'd wait for her to make the first move, thought I'd let her drag things on. But I beat her to it. For a second, she looked like she might cry, or yell, or beg. But she didn't. Instead, she picked up the box, wordlessly, and walked out. I didn't stop her. The silence in the apartment after she left was deafening. I sat there for hours, replaying the moment in my head. Was it too harsh? Should I have said more? I didn't know. But in that moment, I didn't care. I was done. And for the first time in months, I felt like I had control over my life again. The next few days were a blur. I didn't hear from her immediately. She tried to contact me a couple of times, but I ignored her messages. I knew I wouldn't get any truth from her. It was over, and I was moving on. I heard from Mike a week later, asking how things had gone. I told him what happened, how she'd walked out. He said he wasn't surprised. She wasn't happy. He told me. You didn't deserve that. And I didn't. I knew I didn't. But even though I felt a sense of relief, something in me still couldn't shake the feeling that I had been played. That she had been setting things up for me to find out, for me to be the one to end it. Maybe she thought it would be easier that way. Maybe she thought I'd still be there when everything fell apart. But I wasn't. I was done. And that was all I needed to know. The silence after she left should have been comforting, but it wasn't. I sat in that apartment, staring at the spot where she had stood, gripping that box like it held her entire life. I kept expecting my phone to light up with a message from her. Some long, emotional explanation. Some desperate attempt to justify everything. But nothing. For days I told myself I was free. I went to work, went out with friends, tried to push her out of my head. I convinced myself I had done the right thing. She wanted me to find out. She wanted me to be the one to pull the plug. And I did. That should have been enough. But something was off. She hadn't reached out. Not once. No apologies, no fake excuses, not even an angry text. And the more I thought about it, the more it gnawed at me. Then Mike texted me. Mike, hey, you doing okay? I stared at the screen for a second. Me, yeah? Why? Mike, just heard something weird. My stomach twisted. Me, what? Mike, she's been telling people she dumped you. I felt a sharp heat rise in my chest. Me, who told you that? Mike saw a post on her friend's Instagram. Some stupid picture of her out at a bar with some caption like celebrating a fresh start. I clenched my jaw. A fresh start. Like she had been the one to walk away. Like she had thrown me aside and not the other way around. It shouldn't have mattered. But it did. So I looked. I hadn't checked her social media since that night. I didn't block her, didn't delete her, just ignored her. But now, my fingers moved on their own. There it was. A picture of her and some friends, drinks in hand, big smiles, a caption that made my blood boil. To new beginnings. And then I saw him. I recognized him immediately. He was standing next to her, arm loose around her waist. He had that easy smirk, the kind that guys wear when they think they've won. It was Ethan. Her coworker. The one she always said was just a friend. The one she rolled her eyes about when I asked if he was flirting with her. The one who conveniently started showing up in her stories more and more over the past few months. I felt sick. So, that was it. I wasn't just some guy she cheated on. I was the guy she lined up a replacement for. She had been waiting for the moment I'd break up with her, and the second I did, she walked straight into his arms like I was just a pit stop on the way to her real destination. I was over her. I knew that. But I wasn't over this. So I called Mike. Tell me everything you know. It turned out, I wasn't the only one she had been lying to. Mike had heard things, small things at first. How she had been getting close to Ethan for months. How her coworkers all assumed they were already a thing before we even broke up. Then he hit me with the real bombshell. She told people you were controlling. I nearly dropped my phone. What? Yeah, man. She's saying you went through her phone, that you freaked out over nothing, that you pushed her away. My head spun. I hadn't gone through her phone once. The most I did was check her laptop that one time, which she left open. But now she was rewriting the story. She was turning me into the crazy ex. I felt my pulse hammering. Why would she say that? Mike hesitated. Then, carefully, he said, probably because she doesn't want to be the bad guy. I let out a cold laugh. That's rich coming from someone who literally cheated. Yeah, well, she's got to make it look like she had a reason, right? I hung up and sat in the dark for a long time. This wasn't just over. She wasn't just moving on, she was erasing me. Making me the villain so she could step into her new life guilt-free. And everyone was buying it. I wasn't gonna let that happen. I wasn't gonna let her rewrite my story. So I did what I had to do. I started digging. It wasn't hard to find things. When people think they've won, they get sloppy. They get comfortable. And Natalie? She got real comfortable. I started talking to the right people. A few of her coworkers who weren't in her little circle. People who saw things but never had a reason to say anything. Turns out, Ethan wasn't just some innocent new guy in her life. He had a girlfriend. And she had no idea. That was my in. I found her on Instagram, Sophie. She looked normal. Pretty. The kind of girl who thought she had a good relationship, the kind who had no clue what was happening behind her back. I hesitated before messaging her. I wasn't sure if I was that guy, if I was the kind of person who blew someone's world up just because mine had already burned to the ground. But then I thought about Natalie. I thought about the email. I need them to end it first. She wanted a way out without consequences. She wanted me to carry the blame. And now, she was out there, smiling in pictures, celebrating her fresh start. While I was left looking like the obsessive ex. No. I wasn't going to let her walk away without a scratch. So I sent a message. Hey Sophie. I know this is random, but I think there's something you should know about Ethan. And then I waited. I didn't know it yet, but that one message was about to set everything on fire. I didn't expect her to respond right away. But 20 minutes later my phone buzzed. Sophie, what do you mean? I stared at the message, fingers hovering over the keyboard. I hadn't thought this far ahead. I expected anger, disbelief, maybe even silence. But she had responded fast, like she already had a feeling something was wrong. I took a deep breath and typed. Me, I don't know how much you know, but Ethan has been seeing my ex, Natalie, for a while. She cheated on me with him. I just found out. I watched the typing bubble appear then disappear. Then it came back. Sophie, are you serious? Me, I wish I wasn't. I sent her screenshots. The Instagram post of them together. A few texts I had gotten from people confirming what I already knew. I even threw in a screenshot of the email draft Natalie had left open. She didn't reply for a long time. And then, finally, Sophie, that piece of shit. Bingo. She asked me for more details. Where it happened, how long I suspected. I gave her everything I had. She didn't say much after that, just a short thank you, and then she was gone. I didn't know what she was going to do, but I had a feeling Ethan's night was about to get a whole lot worse. And I was right. Because the next day, all hell broke loose. It started with Instagram. Someone sent me a story Sophie had posted. A black screen, white text. Imagine moving in with your boyfriend only to find out he's been screwing his coworker behind your back. Thanks for the heads up, Ethan. Hope she was worth it. I almost laughed. Almost. Then I got a text from Mike. Mike, dude. Go look at Natalie's profile. Now. I opened it. And there it was. Natalie had deleted all of her pictures with Ethan. The ones from their fresh start. The ones where she had acted like she had moved on so easily. The ones where she tried to rewrite history, making it seem like she was the one who ended things with me. All gone. Instead, there was just a new post. A picture of her apartment, empty. Boxes packed up. A caption that just said, I hate men. I sat back and stared at the screen, a slow, creeping realization washing over me. Ethan wasn't just cheating on Sophie with Natalie. He was cheating on Natalie too. I had lit the match, but he had poured the gasoline himself. And now? Everything was burning. It didn't take long for the messages to start. Natalie didn't text me. She called. I stared at my screen, watching it ring. My chest tightened. I wasn't sure if I wanted to answer. I had nothing to say to her. I had already won. But something in me was curious. So I picked up. Silence on the other end. Just her breathing. Then, finally, her voice. You did this. I smiled to myself. Did what? You ruined everything. I leaned back in my chair. No, Natalie. You did that all by yourself. She let out a short, bitter laugh. You're a real piece of shit, you know that? Says the woman who left an entire confession open on her laptop. I shot back. What, did you want me to find it? Did you think I was just gonna roll over and let you rewrite history? You had no right to drag Ethan's girlfriend into this. I scoffed. Right. Because protecting your lie was more important than her knowing the truth? She didn't answer. And that's when I knew. She wasn't angry because she lost Ethan. She was angry because she lost control. I wasn't playing by her script. I wasn't being the sad, heartbroken ex she could paint as toxic, while she rode off into the sunset. I had flipped the whole thing on her. And she hated it. You deserve this, I said, my voice calm. Every bit of it. You think you won? She spat. I don't have to think, I said. I know. I hung up before she could say another word. A week passed. Natalie went dark on social media. Sophie? She posted a TikTok about the whole thing, and it blew up. Comments flooded in. People taking her side. Calling Ethan every name in the book. Some even started piecing together who Natalie was. And then, one day, Mike sent me a screenshot. Ethan had deleted all of his accounts. Gone. Vanished. Like he never even existed. I should have felt satisfied. I should have felt like I had done enough. But something still nagged at me. Natalie. She wasn't the type to disappear quietly. And I had a feeling she wasn't done with me yet. I should have known Natalie wouldn't go down quietly. For weeks, she was silent. No social media, no messages, nothing. It was like she had disappeared. Ethan was gone, Sophie had moved on, and I was finally feeling like I could breathe again. Then I got the invitation. A mutual friend, Sarah, was having a birthday party at a bar in River North. I wasn't sure if I wanted to go, but Mike convinced me. It's been weeks, man. She's not gonna show up, he said. And even if she does, so what? You won. So I went. I should have known better. When I walked in, the music was loud, the drinks were flowing, and for the first time in a while, I felt good. People were laughing, catching up, and Sarah was already tipsy, hugging everyone in sight. Then I saw her. Natalie. She was across the bar, standing with a few of her friends. She hadn't noticed me yet, but the second I saw her, something in my stomach twisted. She looked different, tired, hollow, like she hadn't been sleeping. And then she turned. Our eyes met. The whole room seemed to slow down. She didn't look away. Instead, she smiled. Smiled. And I knew right then that she had something planned. Mike saw her too. Shit, he muttered under his breath. Yeah, I said. I should have left. I should have turned around and walked right back out the door. But I didn't. Because some part of me, some stupid, angry part, wanted to see what she would do. She didn't make me wait long. A few drinks in, people started moving towards the dance floor, and suddenly, Natalie was standing next to me. Close. Too close. You look good, she said. I took a slow sip of my drink. What do you want, Natalie? She tilted her head, her smile never fading. You really think you won, huh? I didn't answer. She leaned in slightly, her voice low. You know, it's funny. You went through all that trouble to expose me, but in the end, you're still here. Alone. I clenched my jaw. Better alone than with someone like you. She laughed, actually laughed. Like I had just said the funniest thing in the world. You're pathetic, she whispered. You think you're some kind of hero, but all you did was make yourself look like a bitter ex. Everyone here sees it. Everyone knows. I turned to her fully now, my body tense. Knows what, Natalie? That you cheated? That you lied? That you tried to paint me as some crazy, controlling asshole just so you wouldn't have to admit what you did? Her smile faltered. I kept going. Because if they know that, then yeah, good. I want them to know. For the first time, she looked caught off guard. She opened her mouth, but before she could say anything, someone else spoke. Jesus, Natalie, give it a rest. We both turned. Sarah. She was standing a few feet away, arms crossed, looking between us with an expression of pure exhaustion. You keep acting like you're the victim, but we all know what happened. You cheated. You lied. You threw him under the bus so you wouldn't have to deal with the consequences. And now you're here trying to, what? Get under his skin? You look desperate. Natalie's face went pale. I know. Sarah cut her off. You want people to take your side? You want to make him the villain? Maybe you should have thought of that before you slept with someone else while you were still in a relationship. The entire conversation had drawn attention now. People were looking. Whispers were starting. And Natalie knew it. Her expression flickered, anger, embarrassment, panic, before she did what she did best. She ran. She turned on her heel and shoved through the crowd, disappearing towards the exit. I let out a slow breath, my heart still hammering. Sarah turned back to me. You okay? I nodded. Yeah. But I wasn't sure if that was true. Because despite everything, despite the lies, the cheating, the humiliation, I didn't feel like I had won anything. I didn't hear from Natalie after that night. A week passed. Then two. People moved on, the drama died down, and slowly, life went back to normal. But something still lingered. Mike and I were grabbing drinks one night when he brought it up. You ever think about reaching out? I frowned. To who? Natalie. I scoffed. Why the hell would I do that? He shrugged. I don't know. Closure? I let out a breath, staring down at my glass. Closure doesn't come from talking to the person who broke you. It comes from realizing they don't deserve another second of your time. Mike nodded. Fair enough. I took a sip of my drink, then set it down. Besides, what would I even say? That I wish things had been different. That I wished she had been different. That some small, stupid part of me still remembered the good times, even after everything? No. Some things were better left unsaid. So I let it go. I moved on. And I never looked back. If you're reading this because you're in the middle of something similar, let me tell you this: you don't need revenge. You don't need to prove yourself. You don't need them to admit what they did or give you closure. The best thing you can do is walk away and let them drown in their own mess. Because trust me, they will.